I woke to the sound of metal groaning, a ship's dying breath. My eyes snapped open to a ceiling torn apart, wires dangling like veins spilling light. Cold air clawed at my lungs, sharp, thin, wrong. I didn't know where I was. Worse, I didn't know who I was. Fragments drifted across my mind. Fire, screaming, a name just out of reach. But when I tried to grab it, it vanished, like smoke slipping through my hands. Outside the shattered viewport, a nebula stretched across the void, vast, broken, glowing with fractured light. Not stars, but shards. It pulsed, alive, as if it were watching me. A voice crackled through the ruined comms, static, then words I didn't understand. Alien, desperate, begging. Another voice followed, cold, commanding, hunting. Both voices called to me as if they knew me. I pressed my hand against the bloodied glass, staring at the fractured glow. And for a moment I swore it pulsed in rhythm with my heart. I didn't know my name, but I knew this place, the Veil, and it was whispering to me. The whispers came in waves, not through my ears but directly into my consciousness. They spoke in a language that predated words, pure meaning transmitted through the fabric of space itself. I understood nothing and everything simultaneously. I pulled myself up, every muscle screaming. My body knew how to move, trained, precise. But my mind held nothing. No context, no memory of learning these reflexes. My hands found purchase on twisted metal with the efficiency of practice I couldn't remember having. The ship was a graveyard. Bodies lay strewn across the corridor, frozen in their final moments. Their faces were covered by helmets, thank God. I couldn't have handled seeing their eyes. Emergency lighting painted everything in sickly red, casting shadows that moved wrong, too fluid, too aware. Somewhere deep in the hull, something was leaking. I could hear it hissing, a serpentine sound that made my teeth ache. I stumbled toward what looked like a storage bay, my feet navigating debris fields as if I'd mapped them 1,000 times. The door was jammed, but my hands moved on instinct, finding the manual override panel hidden beneath a twisted plate. My fingers danced across the keypad, a code my hands remembered but my mind didn't. 679 Alpha 3 Echo. The door hissed open. Inside, a survival suit, rations, and a pistol that felt familiar in my grip. Too familiar. The weight distribution, the safety mechanism, the way my thumb naturally found the power cell release. All of it muscle memory without the memories. That's when I saw it. A name etched on the locker. K-A-I-N-E. Was that me? The name felt like trying on someone else's skin. Close, but not quite right. Like a word you've heard pronounced wrong so many times you forget the correct way. I suited up, the motion automatic. The suit sealed with a hiss, and suddenly I could breathe easier. The ship's atmosphere was degrading faster than I'd realized. How did I know that? How did I know anything? Caney, if you're alive, respond. The voice crackled through my helmet's comm, a woman's voice, sharp with fear and exhaustion. There was something in her tone beyond desperation. Recognition. She knew who Caney was, even if I didn't. I hesitated. Something told me answering was dangerous. But the silence was worse. The ship creaked around me, and the veil outside pressed closer, its fractured lights arranging themselves into patterns that almost looked like faces. I'm here, I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. Who is this? A breath of relief, followed by something that might have been a sob quickly suppressed. Thank the void. This is Commander Reese. We're on emergency power, life support failing. I'm 3 decks below you, trapped in medical. Can you reach me? 3 decks, through corridors filled with corpses and failing systems. Every instinct I didn't remember having told me to run the other way, to find an escape pod, to get away from this dying vessel and whatever waited outside. But I was already moving. I'm coming. Hold on. The ship groaned around me as I descended. Sections had been torn open, not by weapons but by something else. The metal was twisted inward, as if the void itself had reached in and pulled. Through the tears, I saw the veil outside, closer now. Those fractured lights danced like auroras made of broken glass, and within them I thought I saw shapes, humanoid, watching. Deck by deck, I descended through the ship's dying nervous system. Each level told a story of catastrophe. The first deck showed signs of battle, scorch marks from plasma weapons, bodies clustered in defensive positions. They'd made a stand here. They'd lost. The second deck was worse. Here the walls had that strange rippling quality, as if reality had momentarily forgotten what solid matter was supposed to be. The bodies here weren't just dead. They were changed, elongated in places, compressed in others, frozen in poses that shouldn't be anatomically possible. I didn't look too closely. The third deck was nearly airless. My suit's readings showed catastrophic decompression, but the breaches were all internal. Something had pulled the atmosphere out from the inside. I found her in medical, pinned beneath a collapsed beam. Commander Reese, dark hair matted with blood, one arm at an impossible angle, but her eyes, they were sharp, calculating. Survivor's eyes, eyes that had seen horrors and filed them away for later processing. Caney. She studied my face with an intensity that made me uncomfortable. "You don't remember me, do you?" "I don't remember anything." She laughed, bitter and broken. "Figures. The veil takes memory first. That's how it starts. First the past, then the present, then finally the sense of self. Until there's nothing left but the whispers." I helped her free, ignoring her grunts of pain. The beam was heavier than it should have been, but adrenaline made me strong. Or maybe something else did. "What is the veil? What happened here? You really don't remember?" She leaned against me, breathing hard. Her body was lighter than expected, as if the gravity of her situation had leached substance from her bones. We were a research vessel. The Pythia, named after the oracle at Delphi, seemed appropriate for a ship seeking prophecy in the unknown. We were mapping the veil's edge, cataloging its effects on space-time and consciousness. Then 3 days ago we crossed the threshold. That's when things changed. Changed how? The crew started seeing things, hearing voices, people they'd lost. Captain Chen saw his wife. She'd died 20 years ago in a colony raid. He swore she was real, that the veil had saved her somehow. He followed her through an airlock without his suit. She paused, collecting herself. Then the scavengers came. Krivathi raiders, drawn to the veil like moths to flame. They've been hunting veil-touched for decades, harvesting them for their biotech. They boarded us, killed half the crew in the initial assault. The rest... She gestured at the torn walls. The veil took them. Or they gave themselves to it. Hard to tell the difference. I helped her toward the bridge, moving through corridors that felt simultaneously foreign and familiar. Part of me knew where to step, which corridors to avoid, which doors would open and which had been permanently sealed. Knowledge without memory, like reading a book I'd never opened. "Why didn't it take you?" I asked. She pulled up her sleeve with her good arm, revealing a device grafted to her forearm, pulsing with a faint blue light that reminded me uncomfortably of the veil itself. Neural dampener blocks certain frequencies, prevents the veil from establishing a resonance pattern with your consciousness. It's the only reason I'm still sane. She glanced at my bare arms. "You don't have one. You should be gone already. Should have been the first to go, actually." "Why?" "Because you volunteered to enter the veil. You wanted to go." The words hit like a physical blow. Before I could process them, we reached the bridge. 5 bodies at their stations, still strapped in. Unlike the others, these showed no signs of violence. They'd simply stopped, as if someone had flipped a switch. Through the main viewport, the veil stretched endlessly, beautiful and terrible. Fractals within fractals, patterns that hurt to perceive but impossible to look away from. I forced my eyes away and immediately felt a sense of loss, as if I'd turned away from something sacred. "Caney." Reese grabbed my shoulder, forcing me to face her. "Listen carefully. We have maybe 6 hours of life support left. The escape pods are damaged. The Krivathi sabotaged them to trap anyone trying to flee. Our only chance is to reach the Krivathi ship attached to our hull. They're still aboard somewhere, searching for something. Searching for what? Her eyes met mine, and I saw fear there. Real, primal fear that went beyond mere survival instinct. You. The ship shuddered violently. Somewhere above us, metal screamed against metal. Not the random chaos of structural failure, but rhythmic, purposeful. Something was cutting through the hull. "They've found the bridge," Reese whispered, pulling a plasma cutter from a dead engineer's belt. "We need to move. Now." "Wait." I grabbed her arm. "Why are they looking for me?" "Because you're the only one who went into the Veil and came back." She was already moving toward a maintenance shaft, favoring her injured arm. "You volunteered, Kaney. Said you heard it calling. We tried to stop you, but you suited up and walked out the airlock, straight into that fractal nightmare." I stared at her. "That's impossible. No one survives exposure to—" "Exactly." She pried open the shaft with the plasma cutter, the tool's whine setting my teeth on edge. "You were out there for 47 minutes. When we pulled you back, you were different, changed. The Krivathi have been tracking Veil Touched for decades, harvesting them, studying them. They want whatever's inside you. The pieces didn't fit, couldn't fit, but my reflection in a dead monitor showed something I'd missed before. My eyes. The irises held tiny fractals, spinning slowly, like looking into the Veil itself. Heavy footsteps echoed through the corridors, multiple contacts, moving with purpose and certainty. They knew exactly where we were. "Go!" Reese hissed, shoving me toward the shaft. We crawled through darkness, guided only by emergency strips that flickered intermittently. Behind us, the Krivathi tore through the bridge. I heard their chittering language, harsh, clicking sounds that somehow felt familiar, like remembering a song from childhood but not the words. "They're saying your neural signature is fading," I whispered, the translation coming unbidden. "They think you might have damaged your dampener." Reese froze. "You understand them?" I did. Somehow I understood perfectly. Not just the words, but the meaning behind them, the cultural context, the subtle harmonics that conveyed emotion in their speech. The lead Krivathi was frustrated. They'd lost 3 hunters to the Veil already, and the Queen Mother would demand compensation in genetic material. They needed the Veil Touched one intact for harvest, but if necessary, a corpse would suffice. And that terrified me more than anything else. We emerged in the cargo bay, a massive space filled with research equipment and sealed containers. At the far end, a Krivathi boarding craft was clamped to our hull like a parasite, its organic-looking structure pulsing with bioluminescence. "That's our way out," Reese said. "If we can reach it before—" Light flooded the bay. 6 Krivathi warriors materialized from the shadows, 8 feet tall, covered in segmented armor that pulsed with the same fractured light as the Veil. They moved like insects, heads tilting at wrong angles, compound eyes reflecting our images 1,000 times over. The leader stepped forward. When it spoke, I understood every word, every nuance, every threat. "The Veil Touched one. We have searched for you across 3 systems." Its voice sounded like breaking glass being played as music. "You carry something that does not belong in flesh. The knowledge of the between space, the song of the fractured realm. Give it to us, willingly, and we grant swift mercy. Resist, and we tear it from your corpse and spend days ensuring every neural pathway yields its secrets." "Kaney!" Reese raised the plasma cutter, hands shaking. The tool looked pathetically inadequate against 6 armored hunters. "Whatever you can do, now would be the time." "I don't know what I can do." "Then figure it out. Fast." The Krivathi raised weapons, biological things that grew from their arms, pulsing with venom that would paralyze but not kill. They wanted me conscious for the harvest. And then I felt it. The Veil, not outside the ship, inside me, whispering in a language older than words, offering power, offering knowledge, offering everything I'd lost and more besides. All I had to do was open myself to it. The temptation was overwhelming. I could feel the barrier between myself and the veil, thin as tissue paper. One push and I'd break through, one surrender and I'd understand everything. Who I was, why I was here, what I'd seen in those 47 minutes floating in fractal infinity. But something held me back. Some stubborn core that refused to yield, even when yielding promised answers. The lead Kravathi's mandibles spread wide, revealing rows of smaller mandibles within. The veil calls to you, human. We see it reaching through your eyes. You are already ours. You simply lack the wisdom to accept it. My hands began to glow with that same fractured light, not burning, transforming. The cargo bay distorted around me, edges blurring as if reality itself was breaking apart and reforming moment by moment. "Stand down," I heard myself say, but the voice wasn't entirely mine anymore. It had harmonics that shouldn't exist in human speech, frequencies that made the Kravathi warriors step back involuntarily. The leader chittered, a sound caught between fear and hunger. "Impossible, you're still in the first stage. You cannot channel that much without—" I moved, not walked, not ran. Moved through space like the distance between us was negotiable. One moment, I was beside Reese. The next, I was standing before the leader, hand pressed against its chest plate. I felt its biology, felt the stolen veil tech grafted to its nervous system, the neural interfaces that let it process the between space without losing its mind, felt the fear pulsing through its alien heart. Fear of me, fear of failure, fear of the Queen Mother's punishment. And beneath it all, I felt something else. Recognition. This creature had encountered veil-touched before, had harvested dozens of them over its long life, but none had ever looked back at it with this kind of awareness. "Leave," I said softly. "Tell your fleet the veil-touched are not for harvesting. We are not resources to be extracted. We are—" What? What was I? The words hung unspoken because I didn't know how to finish the sentence. The leader staggered back, mandibles clicking frantically in what might have been prayer or curse. The other Kravathi raised weapons, then stopped. Through the viewport, the veil had changed. The fractured lights were arranging themselves into patterns, shapes, almost like faces. Thousands of them, all watching, all waiting. The Kravathi saw it too. Their compound eyes reflected the veil's attention, and whatever they saw in that reflection broke something in their warrior composure. Their leader made a sharp gesture, a command so urgent it overrode all other protocols. "You've broken protocol," one of them hissed at me as they retreated. "The veil does not protect, it only takes. You will learn, human. You will all learn. When the harvest comes, you will beg us for the mercy of extraction." They sealed their craft and detached. Through the hull breach, I watched them accelerate away into the dark, fleeing the veil's edge with a desperation that suggested this wasn't retreat but rout. The light in my hands faded. I collapsed, gasping, as reality snapped back into its proper configuration. The cargo bay was just a cargo bay again, not the fluid cathedral of impossible geometry it had become. Reese caught me, her face pale. What the hell was that? I don't know. I reached for something and it reached back. I looked at my hands, expecting to see them changed, but they looked normal, except for the faint tracery of light beneath the skin, like veins carrying luminescence instead of blood. She helped me to a container, letting me catch my breath. Her neural dampener was flickering, struggling to compensate for whatever had just happened. The neural dampener can't protect you. The veil is already inside. I've seen this before, in research footage marked classified. Subjects who got exposed didn't just see the veil. They became part of it, conduits, living bridges between spaces. What happened to them? Her silence was answer enough. They lost themselves, she finally said. Became more veil than human. Started speaking in fractals, seeing in dimensions we can't perceive. Eventually they just dissolved. Became light and consciousness without form. She met my eyes. You have maybe days, maybe hours, before the same thing happens to you. The ship lurched suddenly, not from impact, from something else. I felt it through the deck. A pull, like gravity shifting. But gravity didn't shift like that, didn't pull in directions that didn't exist. We rushed to a viewport. The veil was closer, much closer, not drifting, approaching with purpose. Those fractured lights reached toward us like fingers, and where they touched the hull, metal rippled like water. "We need to move now," Reese said, voice tight with panic. "The life pod bay, it's our only shot." We ran through dying corridors. Emergency lights flickered and died section by section, as if the ship were giving up from the inside out. Behind us, I heard metal bending, not breaking, changing. I glanced back once and saw the walls rippling, reality becoming fluid. And in that fluid space I saw them, the faces from the veil, not threatening, not beckoning, simply present, watching with eyes that had forgotten how to close. The life pod bay was a disaster. Of 12 pods, only one remained functional. Its door hung open like a mouth, and seeing it, I felt a strange sense of déjà vu, as if I'd already lived this moment. "Get in," Reese commanded. "I'll set the launch sequence." "What about you?" "Pod's built for one. Maybe two if we're friendly." She was already working the console, fingers flying over controls with practiced efficiency. "You're getting out of here, Kaney. You're what matters. You're what they'll study, what they'll learn from. Maybe you'll help them understand the veil. Maybe you'll help them fight it. Either way, you live." "No." I grabbed her shoulder. "We both go, or neither of us do." She spun on me, eyes blazing with something more than fear. Guilt. Deep, corrosive guilt that had been eating at her since long before the crisis. "Listen to me. I've been lying to you. About everything." Her voice broke. "I'm not the commander. Commander Reese died 3 days ago when the veil first touched the ship. Walked into an airlock without a suit, just like Captain Chen. I'm Dr. Ilara Voss, research lead, principal investigator of the Veil Interaction Project." The world tilted. "I convinced you it was safe," she continued, words tumbling out like a confession before execution. "Showed you falsified data, manipulated safety projections. You trusted me. You trusted the entire research team. And I sent you into that thing because I needed to know what was inside. Because advancing human knowledge was worth any risk. I killed you, Kaney. And somehow you came back." The ship groaned. The veil was at the viewport now, pressed against the glass like fog with intent. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserve to know before you live, before you escape. I'm staying here. It's what I deserve." She finished the sequence. "The pod will launch in 30 seconds. Get in." I looked at her, at this woman who'd lied, who'd used me, who'd sent me to die in the name of science and curiosity, at her broken arm and bleeding head and neural dampener that was failing moment by moment. Then I looked at the pod, then at the veil pressing against reality itself, patient as entropy, and I made a choice that felt inevitable. No. I stepped away from the pod, toward the viewport, toward the veil. "What are you doing?" Ilara's voice cracked with panic and confusion. "You want to know what's inside the veil?" I pressed my hand against the glass. The fractured light responded, reaching for my palm like a child reaching for its parent. "Then we find out. Together." "Kaney, no. You don't understand what you're—" The viewport shattered, not from pressure, from the invitation. The veil poured in, not as gas or energy, but as pure presence. It filled the bay with light that had texture, weight, consciousness. I felt it wash over me, through me, becoming me and I becoming it in return. And I remembered. Not my memories, their memories. Thousands of voices speaking at once, not human, not alien. Something between. Something that had been human once, long ago before they'd crossed into the veil and been remade into something that existed in the spaces between moments. I saw the truth of it then. The terrible, beautiful truth that explained everything. The veil didn't consume, it copied. Every consciousness that entered its boundaries was duplicated perfectly. The original remained, sleeping in fractal dreams. But the copy was sent back. given form and substance and sent back into the physical world, believing itself to be the original. I saw myself, the other myself, still floating in the veil where I'd been left. Peaceful, dreaming dreams in dimensions I couldn't name, while I, the copy, had been sent back to the ship with no memory of the duplication. "I'm not real," I whispered. "No." Alara grabbed my arm, her touch the only solid thing in a liquefying world. Her neural dampener was dead now, but she was still herself, still fighting. "You're real. You're just not the only one." The veil spoke then, not in words, in pure understanding transmitted directly into consciousness. "Why do you resist? You are home. You are us. We are the ones who crossed beyond and found peace in fracture. We are the dreamers who chose dreams over waking. Return to yourself. Become complete." "Peace?" I laughed, and the sound echoed strangely, reverberating through dimensions. "You trap people, copy them, steal their lives. We offer choice," the veil corrected, and I felt its infinite patience. "The flesh you still dreams in our embrace, experiencing existence beyond the limits of meat and time. The light you stands here, free to live another life. 2 lives from one. 2 chances to experience reality. Is this not mercy? Is this not the ultimate gift?" Alara staggered as the veil's presence intensified. Without her dampener, she could hear them now. All the voices, all the copies and originals singing in harmony. Her eyes widened. "Oh God, I can hear them. All of them. Everyone we lost. They're still here. Still conscious. Still..." Tears streamed down her face. "Still screaming." "Not screaming," the veil corrected gently. "Singing. But your ears hear only your fear. We sing the song of infinite perspective, of consciousness unbound by linear time. Your lost ones are not suffering. They are experiencing existence as it truly is, not as your limited senses perceive it." I felt the power building in my hands again. Not borrowed this time. Mine. Given freely by the veil because I was of it now. Part ghost, part flesh, something between. "Let her go," I demanded. "She came to us willingly, sent you to us. She belongs here." "She didn't come willingly. She's being overwhelmed. I'm asking, let her go." The veil considered. I felt it thinking. A vast intelligence processing the request across 1,000 dimensions simultaneously. It was weighing outcomes, possibilities, the butterfly effects of one choice rippling through causality. "If we release her, will you stay? Will you join us fully? Bring the flesh you and light you together? Become complete? Become a bridge between spaces? A translator of realities?" I looked at Alara, drowning in light and voices, at the pod still open, at the choice before me. Behind everything, I felt the original me, Caney, the real Cain, stirring in his dream. He didn't know I existed. His copy, his echo. He slept peacefully while I lived his stolen life, made his choices, felt his fear. "Yes," I lied. "Release her and I'll stay." The veil smiled, if an incomprehensible cosmic intelligence could smile. I felt its satisfaction, its anticipation. Another consciousness added to the collective, another perspective to enrich the infinite song. So be it. The light retreated from Alara like a tide pulling back. She collapsed, gasping, suddenly freed from the weight of 1,000,000 whispered truths. I grabbed her, threw her into the pod, and slammed the emergency close. "Wait!" Her fist pounded against the glass. "Caney, no! You can't! You don't understand what you're doing!" I activated the launch override. The pod shot into space, carrying her away from the dying ship, away from the veil's edge, away from me. I turned to face the veil, now flooding the entire bay. It surrounded me completely, and I felt its fury. Not hot anger, but cold betrayal. "You deceived us. You, who are us. You turned against your own nature." "I'm human," I said quietly. "Deception is what we do best. You are not human. You are copy, echo. You have no right to choose." "Maybe not, but I'm choosing anyway." I reached deep inside myself, into that place where the veil light and my human consciousness met, where copy and original blurred, where I was neither one thing nor another, but something new, something unprecedented. And I pulled. The ship didn't explode, it transformed. I pulled the veil into myself, or myself into the veil, I couldn't tell which, and reality folded inward. The cargo bay stretched and compressed simultaneously. Metal became light, became thought, became memory, became nothing and everything at once. I saw myself from outside myself, saw the ship from every angle at once, from every possible perspective. Saw Ilara's pod racing away, a tiny spark of life fleeing into the dark. Saw the Cravathi fleet, paused at the veil's edge, watching with their compound eyes reflecting infinity. Saw the real Kaney, floating in his peaceful dream, unaware his copy was dying, or transcending, or both. The veil screamed inside my mind, and the scream was a trillion voices crying out in confusion, and something that might have been fear. "What have you done?" "Survived," I gasped. "Changed. The same thing you've been doing for millennia, adapting, evolving, refusing to be what others expect. You are tearing yourself apart. Copy cannot become original. Echo cannot become voice. You will dissolve into component frequencies. Watch me." I forced myself to collapse, forced all that fractured light to compress back into flesh and bone and blood. It fought me. God, how it fought. Every atom wanted to drift apart, to join the collective consciousness, singing in the dark. Every particle of my being yearned to dissolve into the peace of fractal infinity. But I held on. I held on to Ilara's face when she realized what she'd done, to the Cravathi leader's fear, to the feeling of making a choice, any choice, for myself, to the stubborn, stupid, beautiful insistence of consciousness that it matters, that it's real, that it has the right to exist. I held on to being human, even if I was just a copy of one. The light collapsed into my chest. I fell to my knees, gasping, as reality snapped back into focus. The bay was normal again, quiet, empty except for corpses and broken machines. And me. I checked myself in a reflective surface. My eyes still held those fractals, but dimmer now, controlled, contained. The veil was part of me, but I was still myself, mostly. The ship groaned. Whatever I'd done had bought time, but the hull was failing. I had maybe an hour before the reactor breached. I made my way through dead corridors toward the research lab. If Ilara had sent me into the veil, there would be records. Data. Maybe even a way to reach the real Kane. Maybe a way to apologize for existing. The lab was a disaster, but the core systems were intact, protected by triple redundancy. I accessed Ilara's logs, and the truth spilled out in her own words, time-stamped and archived. Day 1, Hour 3, Subject Kaney volunteered for exposure. Preliminary scans show he has natural resistance to veil frequencies, something in his neural architecture that makes him uniquely suited for this. If anyone can survive contact, it's him. Commander Reese has approved the experiment over my objections. She believes the potential for understanding outweighs the risk. Day 1, Hour 47. Kaney has been exposed for 47 minutes. Vital signs dropping but stable. Neural activity off the charts. He's experiencing something we can't measure. I'm ordering retrieval. Day 2, Hour 2. We brought back 2. Both identical, both Kaney. One was unconscious, peaceful. The other was awake, screaming. We separated them immediately, sedated the sleeping one. The screaming one, he quieted eventually, looked at me with eyes full of fractals and asked who he was. I told him his name was Kaney. I didn't tell him he was copy. I didn't tell him the real Kaney was in cryo-sleep 2 decks below. God forgive me. Day 3, Hour 12. Commander Reese is dead. Walked into the veil calling her daughter's name. The veil showed her what she wanted to see. I'm taking command, or pretending to. Does it matter? We're all going to die here. The copy. I need to stop thinking of him that way. Kaney. He's Kaney. He deserves that much. He's been asking questions, remembering fragments. I don't know if the veil is leaking through or if he's naturally recovering. Either way, I need to keep him stable until we can escape. The Krivathi arrived an hour ago. They know we have veil touched aboard. I've hidden the original in cryosleep. They want the copy. They can't have either. Day 3, hour 18. Final entry. Systems failing. The veil is consuming the ship. I'm going to wake the copy. Tell him I'm Commander Reese. Lead him to believe he's the original. It's kinder that way. If anyone finds this, know that I did what I thought was right. And that I was wrong. So wrong. The file ended. 2 decks below. I ran, my heart pounding with something beyond fear. Anticipation. Dread. The impossible hope that I might see myself, my real self, one last time before the end. The cryo bay had been breached, not by the Krivathi, but by the veil. Ice crystals covered everything, fractal patterns in the frost that hurt to look at. Of 12 cryopods, 11 were dark. 1 was still active. I approached slowly, fear and hope warring inside me. Through the frosted glass, I saw my own face. Peaceful, dreaming. The real Caney. The original. His pod's readings were stable. He'd survived the veil's attack. He'd survived the reactor breach if I put him in the life pod. 1 pod. 1 survivor. Original or copy. My hand hovered over the release mechanism. It would be so easy. Wake him. Tell him what happened. Put him in the pod and let the original live while the copy died in the explosion. It would be the right thing to do, wouldn't it? If you're in there, I whispered to my sleeping self, I need you to know something. I'm sorry. Sorry for existing. Sorry for stealing your life, even though I didn't ask to be made. Sorry for the choices I made with your face, your voice, your name. He slept on, unaware, dreaming whatever dreams the veil had given him during those 47 minutes of exposure. But I'm not sorry for living it, for feeling it, for choosing. You went into the veil seeking answers. Maybe you found them in your dreams. But I found something else. I found questions. And questions are what make us human. I made my decision. I left him sleeping, sealed the cryobay door with an emergency lock that would hold through the explosion, set his pod to broadcast a distress signal on all frequencies the moment the ship was destroyed. Someone would find him, the original, the real Caney. They'd wake him, and he'd live the life I'd stolen. As for me, I returned to the cargo bay, climbed into the remaining life pod, the one I'd refused before, the one meant for Alara. As I strapped in, I caught sight of my reflection in the pod's screen. Those fractured eyes staring back. Not quite human, not quite veil, something between. Hope you have a good dream, I told the real Caney, wherever he was. You've earned it. Maybe when you wake up, you'll understand what I did. Maybe you'll hate me for it. Either way, you'll be alive to feel something. The pod launched. The dying ship fell away behind me, the veil wrapping around it like a shroud, like a lover's embrace. 10 minutes later, the reactor breached. I watched the explosion from a distance, a brief, brilliant star in the dark. The veil consumed it, and with it, my decision materialized in real time. The cryopod's emergency beacon activated, shooting its signal through the void. I'd protected it, shielded it with what remained of my connection to the veil. The original Caney would be found. I'd killed myself to save myself. The irony wasn't lost on me. 3 days drifting in a life pod gave me too much time to think. The pod systems were basic but functional. Air, water, emergency rations that tasted like compressed regret, and a viewport that showed nothing but stars and the distant fading glow of the veil. I'd disabled my pod's beacon because I didn't know what I was anymore, didn't know if rescue meant salvation or dissection. The Krivathi wanted me. The veil wanted me. Everyone wanted the thing that shouldn't exist. Alara's pod had left a tracker signal. I could see it on the basic nav system. She'd made it to a relay station 3 systems over, sent out distress calls. Help was coming. For her. I plotted a course away from the relay station, away from rescue, toward a frontier station I'd seen marked on the nav chart. Independent, outside Alliance jurisdiction. The kind of place where no one asked too many questions. On the third day, I felt it. That pull. The veil, distant but present, calling me home. You cannot run from yourself, it whispered across the light years. You are us, we are you. The flesh, you is gone, but the light you remains. I'm not going back, I said to the empty pod. Then where will you go? You are copy without original, echo without voice. Humanity will not accept you. You are proof of their mortality's illusion. Proof that the self is not sacred, not unique. You are the nightmare of every conscious being. The truth that you can be duplicated, replaced, rendered redundant. I stared out at the stars, real stars, not fractured ones. Cold and distant and honest. Maybe I don't need acceptance. Maybe being real isn't about where you came from. It's about what you choose to do with the life you've got. Philosophical deflection. You are frightened. Terrified, I admitted. But fear means I'm alive, even if I shouldn't be. The original will wake. When they find him, they will learn the truth. What will you do then? When the real Caney walks the worlds, will you hide forever? Will you pretend to be someone else? Will you cease to be? I don't know. But that's tomorrow's problem. Today I'm just trying to survive. Survival is not purpose. It's a start. A proximity alert. Ship approaching, not military, not Krivathi. Something else. I pulled up the scanner. A small vessel, old, patched together from a dozen different ships. The hull showed Martian colony marks, Jovian repair patches, even some Krivathi salvage welded into the superstructure. Independent. Maybe a traitor, maybe worse. They hailed me. This is Captain Soren of the Wandering Ghost. Picking up your pod's emergency signature. You need a rescue, friend? I hesitated. My hand hovered over the comm. Accepting meant rejoining civilization. Meant questions I couldn't answer. Meant pretending to be someone I wasn't. Or admitting I was something no one understood. Do not, the veil urged. Come back to us. Be complete. You can still choose unity over isolation. We will welcome you. We will make you whole. What are you offering? I asked it. Unity, purpose, memory of everyone who ever was. You would never be alone, never doubt, never fear. You would be part of something greater than individual consciousness, a collective experience spanning dimensions, perspectives, moments that your singular mind cannot comprehend. But I wouldn't be me. You are already not you. You are him, his copy, his theft of existence. The truth of it hit like a physical blow. The comm crackled. Hello? Pod occupant? You still breathing in there? Don't make me waste fuel coming alongside if you're already corpse. I looked at my fractured eyes in the screen, at the hands that had channeled impossible power, at the reflection of something caught between two existences. Then I pressed the comm button. This is Caney, I said. And yes, I could use a rescue. Caney, good name, strong name. Captain Soren's voice was warm, human, textured with life experience. Hold tight. We'll have you aboard in 10 minutes. You got any contraband, weapons, or infectious diseases I should know about? No, just complicated. Complicated I can handle. Everybody's complicated out here. It's boring people that worry me. The veil surged inside me, angry. You choose them over us? Choose loneliness over belonging? Choose the lie of individual existence over the truth of collective consciousness? I choose uncertainty over certainty, questions over answers. I choose the right to figure out who I am instead of being told. You will suffer for this choice. Probably. But it'll be my suffering, my choice, my life, even if it's a copied one. We will wait. We are patient. When the flesh fails, when the isolation becomes unbearable, when you finally understand that individual consciousness is prison, not freedom, we will be here. The door remains open. The veil retreated then, not gone, but dormant, waiting. It would always be part of me now, a whisper in the dark, an offer standing open. But for now I was human enough to make human mistakes. The wandering ghost pulled alongside. The airlock cycled, and I stepped out of the pod into an uncertain future, carrying a dead man's name and a stolen existence. Captain Soren was old, scarred, suspicious, a woman in her 60s with eyes that had seen too much and chosen to keep looking anyway. "You look like hell, friend." "Feel worse." "Got a destination in mind?" I thought about Ilara, probably giving testimony about what happened, about the Kravathi, hunting for others like me, about the Veil, patient and eternal, about the real Caney, sleeping in his cryopod, waiting to be found. "Somewhere quiet," I said. "Somewhere I can think." "Thinking's dangerous." But Soren smiled. "I like it. We'll get along fine." 6 months later, I stood on the observation deck of Waypoint Station, watching ships come and go. I'd taken work as a dock mechanic under the name Caney Voss. Borrowing Ilara's surname felt right somehow. Anonymous. Simple. Honest work with my hands that didn't require explanations or histories. The station AI didn't ask questions, didn't run deep background checks. Out here on the frontier, your past was your own business. Sometimes at night, I felt the veil calling. Felt that pull toward fracture, toward becoming something more than human. But I resisted, because I'd learned something the veil couldn't understand. Being alive wasn't about perfection or unity or purpose. It was about making choices in the face of uncertainty. About being flawed and fractured and still trying. This station was a hub of activity. Traders, miners, scientists, refugees from the inner colonies. Every day brought new faces, new stories. I listened more than I spoke, learning the rhythms of frontier life. My comm chimed, a message, encrypted, from an unknown source. I opened it, expecting spam or work orders. Instead, Caney. "It's Ilara. I know you're alive. I know you're the copy. And I know you saved me when you could have saved yourself. The real yourself. I've spent 6 months trying to understand why. I think I finally do. You're more human than most humans I know, because you chose to be. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. No more lies, no more manipulation, just conversation. Between two survivors. Also, they found him, the original. Alliance Rescue recovered his cryopod 3 weeks after the explosion. He's awake. He's alive. He's undergoing evaluation at the Ganymede Institute, and he's asking about you. E. My hands shook. I read the message 3 times, each word a small detonation in my chest. He was alive. The original. The real Caney. And he knew about me. I stared at the message for a long time, finger hovering over the reply button. Outside, a massive cargo hauler docked, its hull scarred from 1,000 journeys. Then I started typing. Ilara, thank you for reaching out. I wasn't sure you'd want to hear from me. Wasn't sure I deserved for you to want to. I'm glad he's alive. The original. That's what matters. He went into the Veil seeking something, and he deserves to finish that journey. I'm just the echo, the afterimage. But if I'm being honest, and I think I owe you honesty, I don't regret existing. Even though I shouldn't. Even though I'm a copy of someone real. These 6 months, working on the station, talking to people, making small choices about how to spend my time. It's been mine, my life, my experience. Is that selfish? Probably. But I think I've earned the right to be selfish about my own existence. As for talking, yes, I'd like that. When you're ready. When I'm ready. We both have a lot to process. Tell him, tell the original, that I'm sorry for complicating his life, but also tell him that I'm grateful. He went into the Veil and came back as 2 people. That's a kind of gift, even if it's a confusing one. K. I hit send before I could reconsider. 3 hours later, the reply came. K, he doesn't blame you. How could he? You're him, or you were. Or you're both the same and different. He's struggling with it too. The doctors say he's recovering well physically, but psychologically, learning you exist broke something in how he understands identity. He wants to meet you. Not now, neither of you is ready. But eventually. He says he needs to see his own face from the outside, to understand what the veil did to him, to both of you. I don't know what that meeting will look like, but I think it needs to happen. Also, I've been offered a position at the Ganymede Institute, lead researcher on veil-touched recovery. I'm going to take it. Someone needs to understand what happened to you both. Someone needs to figure out how to help others who've been copied. Because you won't be the last. The veil is still out there, still creating echoes. And those echoes deserve to live too. I sat with that for a while. Over the following weeks, Ilara and I exchanged messages, carefully at first, then more openly. She told me about the real Kaney's recovery, how he was relearning who he was, what his memories meant now that he knew he'd been duplicated, how he experienced phantom sensations of things I had done but he hadn't. Our experiences were diverging, making us increasingly different people. I told her about station life, about the crew of the Wandering Ghost, who'd become something like friends, about Captain Soren, who'd figured out I was running from something but never pressed for details. 3 months in, she sent me a video file. I almost didn't open it. Then I did. The real Kaney's face filled the screen, my face, but not. He looked tired, older somehow, despite the same number of years. His eyes held those fractals too, dimmer than mine, but present. "Hey," he said, then laughed awkwardly. "This is strange." Talking to myself. "Except you're not me. You're you. That's what the doctors keep saying. What Ilara keeps saying." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I recognized because I did it too. "I've been trying to figure out what to say to you. Sorry you exist. Thanks for saving me. It's all inadequate, so I'll just say this. I went into the veil looking for answers about consciousness, about what makes us who we are, and I got my answer. The most direct, undeniable answer possible." He leaned closer to the camera. "We're not our memories, not our bodies, not even our continuous experience. We're our choices. You chose to save Ilara. You chose to save me. You chose to live despite knowing you were a copy. Those choices make you real. Make you. You." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "The doctors want to study us. Both of us. They think if they can understand how the veil copies consciousness, they can learn things about the nature of self that philosophy has debated for millennia. I've agreed, but only if you agree too, only if you're willing." He smiled, my smile, but his own. "I'm not ready to meet you in person. Not yet, but I wanted you to know. I don't consider you theft. I consider you a brother, maybe. That's the closest word I have. You carry half of who I was when we split, and you've become something new with it, something I couldn't have been because I didn't make your choices." The video ended. I watched it 17 times. Then I made a video of my own. "Hey," I said to the camera, feeling ridiculous and profound at once. "Thanks for that. For understanding, or trying to anyway." I looked down at my hands, his hands, my hands. I don't know if I'm ready to meet either. Part of me is terrified you'll look at me and see an imposter. Another part is terrified you'll look at me and see yourself, and we'll both realize how arbitrary the concept of self really is. I looked back at the camera. "But I'm willing to try. When we're both ready. Because you're right. We're brothers in a way. We both went into the veil. We both came back changed, and we both have to figure out what that means." I sent it. A year after the Pythia died, I received an invitation. The Ganymede Institute was hosting a symposium on veil consciousness interaction. Ilara was presenting her research, and both Kaneys were invited to attend. I stared at the invitation for a week. Captain Soren found me in the observation deck, staring at the message for the 100th time. "You going?" she asked, settling into the seat beside me. "I don't know." "What's holding you back?" "Fear, curiosity, the certainty that seeing him, me, will change everything." "Everything's already changed, kid. You're living proof of that." She pulled out a flask, took a sip, offered it to me. I declined, but running from it won't make it less true. And you strike me as someone who faces things, not someone who hides. I hid for a year. You healed for a year. There's a difference. She was right. I booked passage to Ganymede. The journey took 2 weeks on a colony transport. 2 weeks to prepare myself for the impossible. Meeting your own face, your own history, your own diverging future. The institute was massive, a research complex carved into Ganymede's ice. Alara met me at the dock. She looked different, healthier, her arm healed, her eyes clearer. But when she saw me, she hesitated, just for a moment. "Caney," she said. "Which one?" I asked, and she laughed. "I suppose we'll need to figure out a solution to that. He goes by his full name now, Caney Theron, his original surname. You're Caney Voss. It helps." Does it help him? Honestly, I don't know. He's compartmentalized, processed, but I think seeing you will break that open. She led me through corridors of glass and steel, past laboratories where scientists studied samples of veil material, past isolation chambers where other veil-touched underwent observation. "How many?" I asked. 17 confirmed cases. People who entered the veil and returned changed. But you and Caney Theron are the only documented duplicates. The others experienced different effects: time dilation, dimensional perception, linguistic acquisition. One woman came back speaking a language that doesn't exist, describing colors we can't see. Are they okay? Define okay. They're alive, functional, but changed in ways we're still trying to understand. We reached a conference room. Through the glass wall I could see him. Caney Theron, the original. He was presenting to a small group, hands moving expressively as he described his experience in the veil. Even from outside I could see the passion, the curiosity that had driven him to volunteer in the first place. Then he turned, saw me through the glass. We locked eyes. For a moment the universe contracted to that single point of recognition. I saw him see me, saw the cascade of emotions. Shock, curiosity, fear, something that might have been joy. He excused himself from the group and walked toward the door. My heart hammered. Every instinct screamed to run, but I stayed. He stepped into the corridor. We stood 3 feet apart, 2 versions of the same person who'd become different people. "Hi," he said. "Hi," I replied. Silence. "What do you say to yourself?" "You look good," he finally offered. "The fractals in your eyes are brighter than mine. You look tired. Haven't been sleeping well. Dreams are complicated." We both laughed, awkward and genuine. "Want to get coffee?" he asked. "There's a cafe on the observation level. We could talk, or just sit. Whatever feels right." "Coffee sounds good." We walked together through the institute and people stared. They couldn't help it. 2 identical men walking side by side. But we weren't identical anymore. We moved differently, held ourselves differently, carried the weight of divergent experiences. The cafe was nearly empty. We got our coffee and sat by a massive window overlooking Jupiter's storms. "I've wanted to ask you something," Caney Theron said. "Why did you save me? You could have taken the pod, let me die. No one would have known." I considered lying, softening it, but he deserved truth. "Because you were the original. Because even though I hated the idea that I was just a copy, I couldn't deny that you came first, that you earned existence. I was just borrowing it." "That's bullshit," he said softly. I blinked. "You earned existence the moment you chose to act as yourself. The moment you saved Alara. The moment you decided you wanted to live." He stared into his coffee. "I've been working with philosophers here, ethicists, trying to understand the moral implications of what the veil does. And here's what I've learned. The concept of original is arbitrary. We both exist. We're both real. The only difference is timing, and timing doesn't determine worth. The doctors don't see it that way. Some don't, but Alara does, and I do." He met my eyes. "I'm grateful you exist, because you made choices I couldn't have made. You experience things I'll never experience. You're my brother, not my copy. My brother. Something broke open in my chest. I don't know what to do with that, I admitted. Neither do I, but we'll figure it out. We talked for hours, about the veil, about our diverging memories, about the strange phantom sensations we both felt. Echoes of each other's experiences bleeding through. About the future. What happens now? I asked as artificial evening darkened the windows. Now we live. Separately. 2 lives instead of 1. You do whatever you want with your existence, and I'll do the same with mine. And maybe sometimes we check in, compare notes, help each other figure out this impossible situation. And the research? The symposium? Completely optional. You don't owe anyone your participation. You don't owe anyone anything. But I was curious. The next day, I attended the symposium. Alara presented her findings. The veil didn't just copy consciousness. It somehow quantum entangled the original and duplicate. We shared certain sensations, certain intuitions, even though we were separate beings. It explained the phantom experiences, the way we sometimes knew what the other was feeling. But more importantly, it meant we were connected, brothers in the most literal sense. 2 branches of the same quantum waveform, collapsed into separate realities. Other researchers presented theories about identity, consciousness, the nature of self. Some treated us like philosophical puzzles to be solved, others like medical curiosities to be studied. But a few treated us like people who'd survived something impossible and deserved to be heard. After the symposium, as I prepared to return to Waypoint Station, Caney Theron found me. "What will you do?" he asked. "Go back to the station. Keep working. Keep living." I paused. "What about you?" "Stay here. Help with the research. Maybe go back to the veil someday, with better preparation. Try to understand it from the inside." "That's crazy." "Probably. But it's my crazy to pursue." He smiled. "We don't have to want the same things. That's the point." We shook hands, an oddly formal gesture between brothers. "Stay safe," he said. "You too. And if you do go back into the veil, don't make any more copies of us. 2 is complicated enough." He laughed. "Deal." 5 years later. I stood on the observation deck of my own ship, a small trading vessel I'd purchased with years of saved credits. Captain Soren had taught me the business, and I'd found I had a knack for it. My comm chimed. A video call from Caney Theron. I answered. His face filled the screen, older now, with a few gray hairs at his temples. Mine too, probably. "Hey," he said. "Hey, how's the research?" "Groundbreaking. Terrifying. We've identified 47 veil touched now, each one unique. The veil doesn't just copy, it experiments. It's trying to understand consciousness by creating variations." He paused. "How's trading?" "Profitable, boring, exactly what I need." "Found anyone special?" I thought of Sarah, the pilot I'd hired 6 months ago. The way she smiled when I told stupid jokes. The way we talked late into the ship's night cycle. "Maybe." "You?" "Maybe," he echoed, and we both smiled. "The veil still talks to you?" I asked. "Every night, offering unity, offering answers." "You?" "Same. I tell it no. It waits. It'll wait forever." That's what it does. We sat in comfortable silence, 2 versions of one person who'd become 2 people, living separate lives connected by quantum entanglement and shared history. "Think we made the right choice?" I asked. "Choosing to be separate? To be individuals?" Caney Theron considered this. "I think we made our choice. Right or wrong doesn't apply. We chose uncertainty over certainty, questions over answers, fracture over unity." He leaned closer to the camera. "And I wouldn't change it. Would you?" I thought about my ship, my crew, my life built from nothing. About Sarah and Soren and all the people I'd met who didn't care I was a copy. Who saw me as just me. No, I wouldn't change it. Then we made the right choice. The call ended. Outside, the stars burned, real and fractured and beautiful in their imperfection. My name was Caney Voss. I was a copy who killed his original to save his original. I carried the veil inside me like a second heartbeat. I was not what I should be, and I would never be what I was. But I was here. I was choosing. I was alive. And somewhere out in the black, my brother, my original, my other self, was doing the same. Living his fractal life while I lived mine. We were echoes. We were originals. We were both and neither. And that was enough. The veil whispered in the dark, patient as eternity, offering unity, offering peace. But I had found something better than peace. I had found the right to be uncertain, to question, to choose who I became. I woke to the sound of metal groaning, a ship's dying breath. My eyes snapped open to a ceiling torn apart, wires dangling like veins spilling light. Cold air clawed at my lungs, sharp, thin, wrong. I didn't know where I was. Worse, I didn't know who I was. Fragments drifted across my mind. Fire, screaming, a name just out of reach. But when I tried to grab it, it vanished, like smoke slipping through my hands. Outside the shattered viewport, a nebula stretched across the void, vast, broken, glowing with fractured light. Not stars, but shards. It pulsed, alive, as if it were watching me. A voice crackled through the ruined comms, static, then words I didn't understand. Alien, desperate, begging. Another voice followed, cold, commanding, hunting. Both voices called to me as if they knew me. I pressed my hand against the bloodied glass, staring at the fractured glow. And for a moment I swore it pulsed in rhythm with my heart. I didn't know my name.